Welcome to Fitness and Finance. I'm your co-host, Tony Shore, and I am here with Billy Joel in the center square and Jamie Lee Curtis on the end there. I love it. Billy Joel and a young Jamie Lee Curtis. I love it. The piano man himself is here. I can't wait to ask you some questions about the album. Why did you call that album The Stranger? That's weird. Anyway, Jeff, you do look a bit like Billy Joel. So I'm kidding, folks.
I've actually heard that before. Someone actually told me that before.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially with your goatee, you look like him. You do have that look. But I mean, you're a better looking guy. Trust me. Billy Joel, not exactly a looker.
Yeah,
not exactly a compliment, but that's okay.
Yeah.
No, I'm here with Jeffrey Smith and Jennifer Scherer. Scherer. You're a sharer. You're a giver. You're a giver. I got to remember that. Just remember giver.
He's like,
sharer.
I thought that you were like from certainly Midwestern, or you're like just sure. It was just one syllable.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh, it's like folks, if you go to Louisville, Kentucky, they say Louisville.
Yeah. It's just one syllable.
Louisville or Nolens. I was down in Nolens and I said New Orleans and they're like, ooh,
where's that?
Not so much.
Yeah, they have no idea where that
is. Enunciation is not. They're not fans of that.
Yes.
They're like Nolens, and I'm like, I don't know how you got there. They took some French road to get there.
Yes,
that's
they
for sure. That is for sure.
LA.
So pun intended. But guys, you've got a great show lined up. I want to jump into it, but first, Metrics That Motivate is the title. And as our listeners and viewers who have tuned into past shows probably already know, Jeff and I did not come up with that great title or concept. It's all on Jennifer.
Yeah,
Thank God she's here. The show would be called, it would probably be called Pizza and Market Update. If it was just Jeff and I.
We'd be like, the stock's closed out great on Friday.
And I'd be like, you know what? Thin crust or pan today.
Right.
But seriously, first, you guys, local TV stars.
Yeah.
Right. You were on a local, what CBS affiliate?
CBS affiliate.
Yeah. Yeah. In New Richmond. You guys were on CBS in New Richmond this morning.
Yes.
What were you talking about on television? Fitness and finance, I'm gonna guess.
Actually, it was May is National Fitness and Pilates Month.
Right.
Oh, Pilates. That's right. I pulled my Pilates the other day and it still hasn't healed.
I love it.
So actually, Jeff did the demo. There was basic 5 exercises that you could do with no equipment, well, minimal equipment. We used a Pilates ball and a foam roller to do some core strengthening, and Jeff was showing off.
Is there a video of Jeff on a foam roller?
There is.
Yes.
I cannot wait to see that.
He did so well.
Well, Jennifer has Jeff blinders, is what I call it. She has Jeff blinders. So
yeah,
I could have been terrible, and she'd have been like, that was the best I've ever seen.
Yeah. It's a little, you guys are a little biased.
We are.
Well,
yeah.
But I think it went well as it could, I guess.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was basically talking about the history of Pilates and how we're going to be highlighting some client success stories for the month of May to keep people motivated.
Yeah. There's some great ones.
Yeah.
I mean, Bill and Debbie and Karen.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about incredible stories. Yeah. They're fantastic. We have so many really cool things, Tony, where, we've seen people start at a point in where they are today after, months. Some of them were years, like Bill and Debbie. But Bill, oh my gosh, I mean, unbelievable transformation. Karen, unbelievable transformation.
And that's months of what? Working with you, Jennifer, and your health.
Yep. So actually, I trained a couple people.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you do some training and health as well alongside Jennifer and with Pilates and things. And does that really help? So this is helping people.
Oh my gosh, yes. When you think about when you come into the studio and you measure their functional movement screening, it's like this 7 different exercises that they go through where we can measure discrepancies from right to left, like compensations that they're making.
Wow.
Pilates rebalances your body essentially because you're having to move in unison, like at the same time, and you're coordinating movements. And you have to keep your core engaged and your posture in alignment. And because all of this other stuff going on, it builds up that foundational strength.
Factory reset.
Yes.
Yeah, it actually forces you to become balanced in your limbs. You know, there's people that have hip issues, for example. So one leg may be longer than the other slightly. And that's typically, you know, people just think that they're either born that way, but you know, typically something, you know, knocked them out of alignment somehow, right? So it's usually in the hips or the knees or, you know, something, you know, in the joint, you know, in one of the joints. And Pilates, you know, when over time can help rebuild that and bring that stuff back into total alignment. So they have
great.
there's stuff called the back. What do they call the chair originally? The wonder chair.
Yeah.
But the back corrector, the spine corrector, right?
Yeah.
So there's stuff literally called the spine corrector, and it sounds like
sounds painful.
It does, and it looks like
medieval
like torture stuff.
What are you guys doing to folks over there?
Man, it's terrible.
Yeah,
like, keep going with the stretching. We're just like crank it.
Oh, nice. Well, hey, that is something, because hip problems seem to be more and more prevalent. I mean, maybe it's just me getting older, but I know so many people seriously have hip issues, and even younger people that I know that are younger than me that have had hip issues. So,
well, that's usually overcompensation for something else, right, Jennifer?
Oh yeah, and I think it's our society is susceptible because we sit so much. You know, we get tight hip flexors, we have lower back pain, and it's all kind of part of the same kinetic chain. You know, if your hips are bothering you, sometimes it goes into your lower back and vice versa. And it's like the chicken or the egg. You know, some people come in like, I have back pain, and then they get in there and their hips are so tight. And it's like, maybe there's a connection here.
Yeah, or quads being super tight.
Yeah.
Hamstrings are like, you know, you could play a bass guitar on the hamstring without them moving. You're like, just boom, just throwing down a groove.
Sure. Well, you said like hip problems are like it's compensating for something else, and that reminds me of a great analogy. Your huge truck. You know, that's like a hip problem is like your Denali pickup truck.
That's true.
It's
That's
compensating.
True. It's lifted. It is lifted.
Overcompensating.
Of course. I mean
something. So whatever.
You think so? I don't know.
What's the difference? It's all fun anyway.
Oh, God.
I think I just can't grow any hair on the top of my head. My personality is lacking, so I have a big
no, that's not true at all. That's not true at all. So the TV appearance, you actually did some physical demos, and you got down and demoed this, right? On the ball and the roller and stuff, Jeff. How about you, Jennifer? You just coached and he did all the work? Is that what happened?
I did all the cueing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jeff was the superstar.
Kind of the opposite of the show.
Exactly.
We're along for the ride, and Jennifer's doing all the heavy lifting and the work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, you know, she's really good on camera. She's really good on camera.
I can tell.
Super comfortable in that space. So it's always good to have you know, this team work together this way, because she's really, really good at that. And I'm really good at taking cues from her. So that's good. You have to do this. I'm like, I can do this. I'll just do this.
Yep. There you go. Well, you guys are great together, and that's why I love doing the show with you. And I just love the combination. When you talk to me about this, I'm like, it's so perfect. And I thought it was a great idea, but I'm like, well, we'll see if it works. You know what I mean? And then I met, because I hadn't seen you together, right? I hadn't experienced the team of Jeff and Jennifer, right? J&J, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, J&J in the mornings, Fitness and Finance Radio.
Morning Zoo.
So you guys are great, and it's a great 1-2 punch to help people. And I know that's your passion. You want to be healthy. You want to help others live their best lives, both financially and physically, and mentally and health wise. So that's great. The TV appearance, when did it air? Is it going to air again? Is there somewhere our viewers can see it? We'll have it posted on this YouTube channel, right?
Yeah. It was aired at about 9:45 this morning.
Okay.
It should be up on WTVR's website this afternoon, but we're actually posting it on our Fredericksburg Fitness Facebook page as well.
Excellent, excellent. And we'll make sure it goes on this YouTube page where people can watch the show. And there should be a link to your YouTube page if it's not up yet pretty soon on Jeff on your site on the page there. So that'll be good. Now, moving on from that, then it sounds like that was very fulfilling, and hopefully a lot of people out there saw it, and it will motivate them to either call you and work with you both, or go out and find someone to some way to start this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's great. Now, the topic today, metrics that motivate. I used an X, but it's probably CS on the end, right?
Yes,
Metrics.
Yes, I would say it's a CS.
I was thinking, I spelled it that way on purpose because it's in depth and it's a little like the Matrix.
Right.
So yeah, the
It's
Matrix,
like dodging bullets.
a matrix, right? Where fitness and finance fit together in a tight bound matrix. And we're going to talk about actual metrics to create that matrix to motivate, to create that and to continue it. So where do you guys want to begin with this topic? First of all, Jennifer, you came up with the title. What does that mean? Metrics that motivate.
So I think a lot of my clients come in and they obsess over surface level metrics like the scale.
Oh yeah.
And I have to get them out of that mindset and into metrics that matter, how you're feeling, like even just with your energy, even in terms of like your body composition, the scale doesn't show how much is muscle and how much is fat.
So wait, you're by metrics, you're talking about things like your weight when you weigh in on a scale.
Yeah, so that's just gives us a baseline. Like we take certain metrics of blood pressure, resting heart rate, the scale weight, the circumference measurements of like their chest, their waist, their navel.
Sure.
And then we go into even deeper than that, like their heart rate response to a cardio test. So there's a lot of metrics, numerically that we're measuring, but we like to get deeper than that because a lot of that is on paper is great. Yeah, you're improving, you're getting stronger, your balance is getting better, your push-ups, you're improving your upper body strength, your alignment. But like, how do you feel beyond the scale, beyond those numbers? Like yesterday when we talked about returning on intensity, making sure that you have a good balance so that you're not overdoing it in any one area or becoming obsessed with the scale as opposed to balancing, your routine in a healthy way.
Yeah. And I think that is important. So you look at those metrics and you don't use them. A lot of people, metrics discourage them, I think.
Yeah. And there's metrics that matter in fitness. And I think those that matter are important to pay attention to, like blood pressure and, some blood test results, like lab markers. As a dietitian, we definitely want to pay attention to. Because they reflect not just your nutrition, but, stress management and, cardiovascular disease risk and all that other important stuff. But I guess the takeaway would be like the number on the scale might be moving, but is your body moving better? Like, how do you feel?
Well, I mean, anybody can take Ozempic or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And lose lbs, right? But it's destroying your muscle tissue. It's it's making you dependent on that. It's not really making any changes. It's really just giving you a temporary patch, and you're less hungry, right? So I think for people who have diabetes, I think it's a great thing, right? I mean, that's what it's supposed to treat, but I think people are using things.
Oh yeah, people
they're motivated by those superficial things and looking for a temporary fix. So that's
and I think that's why the InBody scan is so important. So the InBody scan really does give us an exact representation of what your body is made of. And people on Ozempic, they're like, oh yes, I'm losing weight, I'm doing great, and all of that's wonderful. If they have a lot of weight to lose, a lot of times it is coming from fat cells, but if not, it's risky because you're losing muscle mass.
Yeah, I've known people that have started on Ozempic or, the copycat drugs for weight loss that are coming out, and they do the injections. And I look at them and I go, not tons of body fat there to lose, even some people, you know what I mean? Where they should probably diet and exercise would get them there a lot better and a lot healthier, probably.
Yeah, it just takes a little bit longer, right? And you have to stay focused and motivated. And I think that that's what this topic's kind of about. If we can establish metrics that motivate, it keeps you engaged. You know, we talked last week or last show about you know, NASCAR, for example, right? Having a goal.
Yeah.
You know, trying to get around the, you know, sometimes it feels like you're going in circles when you're committed to such a program like Jennifer establishes or I established for you for financial planning. It sometimes can feel like you're just going in circles, but the reality is that, you know, guys that are, you know, on a track, they have marks that they have to hit, right, in order to stay in the lead or to gain on somebody. You have to stay focused, and if you don't, you go into the wall, right? So I think that it's a good analogy, and you know, staying focused isn't easy. But when you have metrics that are more than just, you know, a scale, right? Because you're gonna hit a plateau. Like if you had a lot to lose, and you hit, you know, out of the gate, you know, come out hot, you're gonna lose a ton of weight fast. But then you're gonna plateau, and then you're gonna say, "Wow, you know, what's going to keep me engaged here if the scale's not going down?" Or, you know, how come I can't see my portfolio going, you know, maybe it goes up, you know, quickly, but levels off. You know, you got to stay engaged with something that is more than just those temporary, you know, those things can be fleeting, right? So it is a really, really healthy topic to talk about because people need a different perspective on what results should be or what they can be.
Yeah, I remember yesterday we were talking about HRV,
Oh yeah.
the heart rate variability, and
What is that?
that basically it shows how well your body's recovering, like your parasympathetic nervous system. So if you're overtraining, you're going to have a low HRV, and that would be bad to do like intense exercise on a day that your HRV is low because your cortisol is high and it's kind of counterproductive. But that's like a really cool metric to measure, like how well somebody's sleeping and recovering. If they have a really low HRV, let's figure this out. Let's start with sleep. That's a great metric that measures success. And when you're overtraining and you're banging your head against the wall as to why you aren't achieving results, a lot of times it's stress or sleep. So, what metrics can we track that correlate to your stress level? It's a lot of times, you know, work-life balance can be off for people. So figuring out like meditation. Let's do 5 minutes a day of meditation.
Well, let's
That's a
talk about
metric.
what the parasympathetic does, right? So, I mean, how do you train the parasympathetic? That is sort of right brain thinking. It's checked out. It's daydreaming. It's, you know, it can't, you know, sometimes people have a hard time doing, you know, just meditation because it seems weird, you know,
Right.
or it seems like they can't ever focus because there's thousands of things going on in their mind, right? Parasympathetic can simply be an exercise. I mean, it's as simple as taking a coloring book and just coloring, and you know what I mean, just checking out of any intentional thought, right? So allowing your central nervous system to rest is so important. It is always on guard. It's always moving unless you intentionally try to find a way to come down off of that, right? And I struggled with that when I was younger. I mean, I had anxiety and panic because my central nervous system was always on guard between fight and flight, right? So I struggled in that area, and it showed up in the scale, right? It showed up in that's part of the reason why I was at 300 pounds, because I never learned how to deal with my parasympathetic. And I think a lot of people think it's, you know, physical, and I wanted it to be physical, but it wasn't. So yeah, those are really good things to do. Is I learned through meditation. That's what got me in, you know, in relaxing my parasympathetic, but not everybody can do that. So I also paint, you know, I play guitar, I play drums when I can. Those things, those right brain thought processes are what really drive the relaxation of that parasympathetic.
Yeah. And I have clients that are like, well, Jennifer, help me out here. Like, what can I do every day to help my stress? Because I can't change my lifestyle. I've got to work this insane job. I have kids. You know, I have no time. And what I coach is something like that you can do every day as opposed to like a complete overhaul. You know, and simple things like drink a full glass of water when you wake up, or take 2 minutes and just inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 6 seconds. Or if you're in the middle of your workday, do a body scan. Like relax your shoulders, pay attention to your jaw, like in your belly. Like there's tension lingering everywhere during a stressful workday. Even just a quick text message or like a quick email to show someone that you care or you're thinking about them is like that positive, you're reinforcing that positive mindset.
It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Jeff? You might want to text
Jeff.
You should text your wife.
Jeff, I care about you so much. Could you wear the muscle shirt? I
love it. Fresh air, even, right? Just getting outside for a couple of seconds, going on a quick walk outside is a great regroup.
Yeah.
You know?
When I want to relax, I put on a muscle shirt.
Yeah. It relaxes the rest of us. I think for some people to relieve stress, they might want to just do a screenshot of Jeff in the muscle shirt.
Oh, God.
But I think this is all good. I wanted to ask you on the health side. I know we've been focused a little more on that, but on the health side, one of the metrics, and for some reason, I'm not thinking of the exact, is it BMI where you measure? Is that something you look at? Like, is that like body mass index, like fat versus your fat content, or what is body mass?
So BMI, body mass index, it's outdated, to be honest. It's just a function of your height and your weight. It's that graph that you see on the doctor's office, wall. It's like your height's on one side and your weight's on the other. Yeah. So if you're an elite level athlete, you are sometimes considered overweight or obese because it's solid muscle. So it doesn't distinguish between what's muscle and what's fat.
It's just weight. It's just LBS.
It's just LBs and your height. Yeah. So that's why we do that InBody scan, because the InBody scan measures your percentage of body fat, and then it shows us how much muscle you have on your frame.
I'm aging myself, I guess, because it used to be BMI. Your body mass index is way off. You need to change.
You still use it
for the normal average.
You guys are like, well, Tony, you should probably. They're still right, Tony. No. Your BMI is a concern for you. I love that.
No, I think for the average individual, it can give us some idea of risk, but you definitely want to go deeper than that. You want to look at your body.
Life insurance carriers use BMI, and so I always have to write like a some sort of letter to indicate the body as a whole, not just the weight and the height, because sometimes people can get a standard or a non-standard rating because of their BMI, and that doesn't always tell the story, right? So if you have somebody who's a lifter, for example,
the Hulk, Lou Ferrigno, the Hulk,
he'd be considered obese off the charts, like not insurable.
When he has zero body fat, it's all muscle. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's from the financial side, those things are outdated, but I think it's a good indicator for insurance companies because they don't have the resources to have a InBody run on every single client. So
they could hire Jennifer to evaluate clients.
Yeah,
she'd be great at that.
Well, one of the things we talked about doing was doing an assessment for life insurance. So when people come to us, they can do the assessment with us to indicate sort of a roundabout idea of what they can expect, and if it's in that standard or non-standard range after Jennifer looks at their blood, and looks at their height and weight and their InBody, we can actually design a plan to get them on track to assuming that that's not that those are the only things that are sort of wrong.
That's a great idea. I mean, the insurance industry should do that. They should license you or others, and then you could to make it official, like you give the report on people for them to take to their insurance company or to send to their insurance company, and the insurance companies could have you licensed, like, hey, you're going to do these assessments that are based on their overall health picture, and we'll use that as one of the criterion. Or
I've been a licensed life insurance agent for 25 years, and so I have a fairly good.
Started when you were 10.
You're right.
Not a day over 35. What's happening? How does
Well,
that math work?
I was fresh out of school, so high school, as far as you know.
As far as you know.
As far as you know. But I have done that. So I know what, and most of the time, what insurance companies are looking for. So these are, I mean, I hate it because if you get declined, then you have to tell that to every single other carrier out there, if you're applying for another policy. And so before people go through that whole process, it could be something very simple that they're, just eating something that's showing up as driving some numbers high, like their A1C, or, cholesterol's high on that day, or, whatever. It could be a lot of different things. And, exercise. I mean, as an insurance agent, it was hard for me to want to apply for my own coverage because I knew I was overweight. Right. So I've seen it so many times. So,
Sure.
But yeah, so I think that it's important to, I mean, that's a good metric, right?
Yeah.
Can you get a prefer? I mean, I just got a super preferred rating. I just got my life insurance, and I mean, I got a super preferred rating, and that's not handed out easily. So I owe a lot to Jennifer on that. So
There you
I'm
go.
telling you,
Look at that.
yeah, I mean, this is a great crossover sort of conversation. Health insurance, life insurance, long-term care insurance, there's critical illness insurance, all those things that are available and we should be incorporating into our plans. They all are interrelated with your fitness level, right? And your mortality and morbidity, right? So taking care of those things and really, I mean, those should be the metrics, right? Can I get a standard rating or better on my insurances? Am I paying the least amount possible for those types of things?
Mm-hmm.
Right. So we want a life insurance policy to be disaster planning, not like, oh my gosh, we're probably may use this in the next 10 years. You know what I mean?
Sure. Sure. But that was a great, you gave credit to Jennifer, and I think that's awesome. I love Jennifer, saving lives one insurance smith at a time.
Right.
I love it.
It's true.
Jennifer Scherer, saving lives one
Saved my life
insurance
in
smith
so many
at a
ways.
time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well, Jeff helped me with my finance, getting everything in order. I mean, it was a big, huge help. I think my whole idea of savings has completely changed.
Sure.
And I think that's a huge metric that matters in the financial world.
Yeah, there are financial metrics. I mean, we could probably do a whole other show.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
We're going to have to wrap up in a few minutes, but I know there are many financial metrics that you utilize when you assess people's situation. You look at certain metrics. You look at their time horizon, like how old are they now? What age do they want to retire? How much have they saved so far?
Right.
Where is their money at? How much is it earning? You think these are the metrics you use to create a solid plan, right?
Yeah. And I also look at debt to income ratio too. I mean, that's important. I think that it's not, something that everybody sort of analyzes, but I think it's really important to know what that is. And what are going to be some things that potentially impact your retirement if they're not in check, right? So if you have runaway spending, that's something, most of the clients that I see do not, right? They don't. They live within their means, and they're typically good savers, but not everybody is. And everybody that, not everybody that's listening to the show are, and I think it takes an awareness and a shift, right? I think because people want what they want when they want it, it leads them to want and thirst for the highest possible return possible to outperform their spending, right? It's no different than fitness, right? So people want to outwork their terrible food habits, right? You just really, it's a sucker's bet, right? You're gonna lose every time. So it's much better to get a full perspective of what you should be measuring. And return is certainly super important, but it's not everything. And if you plan better, return becomes a lot less important, which is what my job is to make that happen. Like if I can outplan,
so you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, if it works at 3 and 4%, it's going to work at 10 and 12.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
So that's the way I look at things. We use this thing called a compass report, and it really outlines and coordinates income, but it's derived by the the current savings, where money is currently
The
allocated,
metrics, your
all the
current
metrics.
metrics, and talk
Mhm.
about metrics that motivate. That Compass report is
Oh my
so
gosh,
good.
I love
That
it.
is worth
Mhm.
setting up the no charge, no obligation appointment with you to
Yeah.
get to have that consultation right there. The
Yep.
Compass report is so valuable.
A few years ago in a life insurance symposium, I coined the phrase I challenge all the agents and everybody that I talk to that are in the industry, and I always say that we have to be able to look further down the road than our clients can. And if you can't, you're in the wrong industry.
Yep.
People do not know what they don't know, and if they don't know that, they are going to assume perfect sunshine and rainbows all the way through retirement, and
Yep.
that's just not the case. You have to be able to know what things are going to look like, not just at 65, but at 100. Who knows how long some folks are going to live? And I hear it all the time, like husband and wife come in, wife is always okay with that, being projected out to 100, but husband's always like, nah, I'm going to check out at 86.
Mhm.
They always have a number. They always have a number, and it's never 100. They're like, I'll never live that long, or I
Yeah.
don't want to live that long, or
Right.
but the reality is that that's not what they're really saying. What they're really saying is, I don't want to plan that long. I don't want to know what that looks like because it's scary to me.
Yeah.
Right. So the reality is we have to have some, something along the way, a guide path or something that keeps us connected and keeps us, driving forward. And those are different metrics than what I think most people are used to.
Yeah.
And things that I never thought of when I went through that process with you, Jeff, was like disability insurance. Being self-employed, what would happen if something happened to me?
Mhm.
Do I have an emergency fund? How many months of expenses are covered?
Right.
Um, you know, I feel like that peace of mind and financial stability was a conversation that we had to have, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have had it had I not gone through the process with Jeff.
That's
Yep.
It
great.
was valuable.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think if you think about the, average business owner, they're a necessity in their business. And you take them out of the equation, and then what?
Mhm.
What happens? Is it self-sustaining? I think people who work on their businesses instead of in them, they will be able to have a little bit more freedom and flexibility with that disability piece. But I can assure you, if you're somebody who is actively involved in your business on a daily basis and you're an integral part of that, if you go on vacation and you feel it, feel the damage of that in your business, you need to discuss disability insurance with your agent. You need to discuss things that if something goes wrong, your business doesn't fall apart, your spouse doesn't, you know, suffer, your family doesn't suffer.
Yeah.
Those are all really
You need
important
to have
things.
coverage for that
Yeah, we
should
really
something
very
happen.
off of
If
the
you're it's like the key, what do they call it? The key clause or the key player clause or
the key
the
person.
key person clause,
Mhm.
that, if your existence is instrumental to your business
Mhm.
and it will suffer if you're gone or go away, then yeah,
Mhm.
disability insurance might really help. So, guys, we should wrap it up. But before we go, make sure you let our listeners know. Jennifer, we'll start with you. How can our listeners get a hold of you if they want to get some of these metrics in place to get motivated to become healthier and feel
Yes.
better?
So online, check out our website. It's fbergfitness.com. So F as in Frank, B as in boy, urgfitness.com. And then you'll just click the button that says schedule the discovery call. And that's a free 30-minute phone call or virtual meeting with me so we can discuss their kind of like a health history, exercise history viewpoint form.
Excellent.
Mhm. Yeah, and if you want to check out the planning firm, our website is theretirementsmith.com. You can go on there and you can click on a link and fill out a small form, a short form that will get us connected, and we will set up a time for a no cost, no obligation discovery meeting as well. So yeah, please don't hesitate. If you have questions, that's what we're here for. So we're doing this to educate and help others. Feel free to reach out with questions.
Yeah, that's good. And that number for Jeff again is 540 371-9777. And for Jennifer, it's fbergfitness.com. Right?
Yes.
Am I
that is-
right?
Yes. You
All
are.
right. Just want to make sure our listeners get that in case they're not watching the video.
Yeah.
And you guys, another great show, Metrics That Motivate. Thanks for tuning in, listeners and viewers. That does it for today's episode of Fitness and Finance with Jeff Smith and Jennifer Scherer.